lost two very close friends and still kept on going. Warren MacDonald lost two legs at mid-thigh in one freak accident, and he too kept going. In a crazy way, I think it's made Warren a better climber because, you know, he can now fit the appropriate prosthetic in order to specifically address the climbing problem that he's facing. Here's Warren MacDonald.
Thank you, Moses. I'm going to run some video just to paint a bit of a picture for you guys.
We got the call late afternoon that there was a hiker trapped under a large boulder
Got some audio
out on
there?
Hinchbrook Island. So we went out in the helicopter and winched down on the wire cable with our equipment and indeed found this fellow who was in trouble. I didn't think he was alive, and I was given to understand he'd been there for 2 days. And I think once he realized we were there, he roused and really he put forth a heroic effort to get himself out of there with our help.
Okay, we'll get rid of that before the violins kick in, eh? Gonna have to talk to my multimedia guy. He's the same one that makes my peanut butter sandwiches, unfortunately. I want to talk a little bit this afternoon about how we all create our own reality. I'm a huge believer that if we can change the way that we see the world, we eventually change the world. And what I mean by that is that when we take steps to creating our own reality, that flows on. And I'm a huge believer that the world that we see is made up of all our own interconnected realities combined to create a world reality. And over the years I've come to realise that what's happening on a global scale, and this is the bit that might be a bit tough to digest, is a result because on some level we all let it happen. I had to digest that when, as the years went by, I had to accept that I lost my legs because somewhere along the line there was a lesson in that I had to learn. But I've actually got to the point now where if I had the chance to go back and relive that moment and not have that boulder fall into my lap, I wouldn't change it. Because it's taught me so much along the way, I would go through that again. I spent 2 days under that rock. They eventually got me out, flew me straight to hospital. I spent 10 days in intensive care, had 5 operations over the course of those 10 days. Didn't think that they were going to be able to keep me alive. And eventually, when I moved out into the general ward, I had a moment that I look back now and I see it as an absolute huge turning point in my life. And that moment was when a physio came into my room and she handed me a thing that looks like an overblown plastic whistle called a triflow. And what that's for is because when you're in that prone position, fluid builds up in your lungs. And even today, 2006, people still die in hospital from pneumonia caused by fluid buildup in your lungs. So she showed me this thing, giant plastic whistle, 3 chambers, small ping pong ball in each one. The idea is to blow into that thing and keep the ping pong balls up in the top of the chamber. And I'll tell you what, when she handed me that thing, I pretty much decided then and there I was going to be the tri-flight champion of the universe. Because for the first time, somebody handed me a role and a way that I could move forward instead of just being at the mercy of the medical staff. You know, I could have easily looked at that thing and said, "Are you kidding me? I just lost both legs and you give me an overblown plastic whistle." I could have thrown it straight over my shoulder and said, "Forget it." Or instead, I saw it as an opportunity to move forward, and that was a huge, huge step to take and a realisation to make. I did a radio interview in Hobart, Tasmania, years ago, and getting out of the car, put my chair together, and I'm heading for the front doors, and there's a school group coming out, young kids. And I thought, oh, here we go, this will be interesting, because kids, they've always got the best questions, hey? So next thing, I've got all these kids around me, and they're firing off questions, and I'm ducking and weaving, and off to the side I see this one girl there. She's about 8 years old, and she's got her arms crossed like this, and she's looking me up and down. Very serious look on her face, and I'm thinking, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Finally, she steps forward and she says, "Excuse me, what's your job?" And I'm like, what? Who bought this kid? She says, "Is your job just to wheel around in that wheelchair?" And I'm thinking, who really did bring this kid? Wow. So I thought, right, I'll sort you out. I said, "No, actually, my job is to go out and climb mountains." She doesn't miss a beat. She looks me up and down again and says, "Not anymore. You haven't got any legs." And I'm like, wow. But of course, it wasn't in her reality to have a guy sitting in front of her with no legs. There's no way she was going to equate that with a guy climbing mountains, which is fair enough. The way that I survived was because my whole life had been about challenging myself. That's what it had been about.
You know, it's just really authentic, and as a result, it really moves you.
People often would say to me after the accident, "Wow, I don't know how the hell you survived 2 days under that rock." And they follow that up with, "I couldn't have done it." And my standard response has always been, "Well, that's interesting. What do you reckon you might have done?" No? Do you reckon you might have held your breath? Maybe strangled yourself? The way... Like we've got an incredible ability to want to survive, right? It's inbuilt. And the way that I survived was because my whole life had been about challenging myself. That's what it had been about. I got really uncomfortable with this world that we've created where we live inside this plastic bubble. We hardly even get caught in the rain anymore. You know, it's nuts. We have to walk a couple of blocks and we're complaining about it. So it was simple. The way I survived was that I spent my whole life challenging myself. And, you know, it's funny, I speak in front of a lot of groups now and it's people are, you know, there's this economic situation where people are getting retrenched and we're always talking about downsizing and all the rest of it. And it's like, well, it's pretty simple. You know, if you want to toughen yourself up and be able to manoeuvre when change happens, because it's inevitable, then you've got to challenge yourself. You know, and if you reckon you're going to do that by kicking back in front of the TV and watching 5 hours of TV a night, you think that's going to hold you in good stead. When the rug gets pulled out from under you, forget it. It doesn't work like that. You know, I'm not saying that we all need to go back and live in caves, but we need to think about maybe toughening ourselves up a bit. And it's taken me a while too, because when this initially happened, my way of challenging myself was physically. You know, the thing I love about today is that we get challenged mentally as well. And that's huge, because it's going to help us to move forward. I want to run a little bit more video just to give you an idea how far you can take this concept of creating your own reality.
Oh, that looks so good.
These feel really good.
Yeah.
You know, even with the crampons and rubber tips, you know, were just amazing for moving across ice. But then when these went on, it was like,
Yeah, booyah.
now we've got the full deal. What's happening on your side?
What's happening on your side?
It's going good now that I'm out of the snow. Good. Actually, I like the look of up there better.
Welcome to 4.
Yeah?
Stuck at the top.
You're laying on me, brother. Good job.
Good work.
Good job, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
I knew it was a good idea.
Mike's nervous laugh at the end there, eh? I wouldn't show my mum that video for the longest time. She kept saying, when are we going to see this ice climbing film? And it's like, oh, it's not quite ready yet, Mum. What I want to leave you guys with this afternoon is just that idea, you know, just imagine, just stop for a minute and imagine what we can do and where we can go if we all take responsibility for our own actions. And we accept that the reality that becomes manifest reality starts up here, in a willingness to believe in ourselves and facing our fears and moving forward. Thank you.